All right, so I call this meeting of the Lake Country Classical Academy to order at 6:04 p.m. on April 15th. In accordance with Wisconsin's open meetings law, the required public notice of this meeting ran in the Saturday, April 11th issue of the Waukesha Freeman, was posted on the LCCA website and at the front entry doors of both school campuses. The LCCA mission is to train the minds and improve the hearts of young people through a content-rich classical education in the liberal arts and sciences with instruction in principles of moral character and civic virtue. Please rise and join me in reciting the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge of Allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Alright, let the roll show that all board members are in attendance. Is there any objection to the minutes from the March meeting or this agenda? Okay, agenda approved. All right. So, assume there would be a lot of public comments today and issues that people want to hear discussed. So we kept the agenda kind of as light as possible and focused on that. So one of the things I did is, usually we do the public comments next. I thought I would do the president's report before the public comments, just because a lot of the things you might be wondering about can be addressed in that report. So I thought it may help you when you're doing your public comments to have some of this information. So I will start with the good news. If you have not heard, our head principal has been Hillsdale approved, so went through the en route process and has been approved. So the rest of this process, the way we see this going, is next week, if we can get it scheduled, we want to set a meeting up where the faculty, the community, the parents, and board members who have not had a chance to talk extensively to the candidate can all do that in one day. They would be separate meetings where faculty would be separate from parents and separate from the board. But we hope to get that scheduled next week, and then assuming all goes well with that, then we would hope to have an interim board meeting and approve the head principal. So potentially even in within a week or two, we could have that secured. I will tell you, the head principal candidate could potentially start as early as May, even before school's out, on a part-time basis. So at least a chance to get to know him, have him get to know you and the kids, a little bit of a head start for next year. So I wanted to let you know that news. So Matthew Vondre and Ellen was part of this too, along with Cammie and Eric, a committee that interviewed and selected the candidates to interview. And Matthew had talked to Hillsdale, during and post interview. So Matthew, I just wanted to give you a moment here, if you had anything from your discussions with Hillsdale on that process and the interviews that you thought was worthy of sharing.
Sure, absolutely. I can share with you. So the process was, after we put out the job description, we had initially several candidates apply. After the first round of interviews, we had several more candidates apply. Our committee had our subcommittee had decided that we were not going to hire a head principal just to hire a head principal. So we went into it with the assumption that none of these people may be qualified, or maybe they were going to have to, maybe all of them. We ended up having one particular. We had really two interviews altogether. Initially, one of those candidates was a maybe. The other was yes, we definitely want to interview. We interviewed both, and the one who was a definite yes is the candidate that we're now proposing to move forward. The committee all agreed that this person, we thought anyways, right? So from the vice principal standpoint, both campuses, as well as the committee standpoint, the board member committee standpoint, that this particular candidate would be an awesome fit here at LCCA. This candidate, which hopefully in the next week or so you'll have an opportunity to meet, decades of leadership experience at multiple campuses, great reputation, lots of history, building teams and working through all kinds of different scenarios, right? So like this is the cool, steady hand who's seen it all 10 times and knows how to bring resolution and build and grow and all the positive things that I think everybody wants. So that's how we went into proposing this person to Hillsdale and said, hey, we love this candidate. We think this candidate's a great fit for all these reasons I just mentioned to you. And Hillsdale agreed to kind of change the way they would typically go about interviewing people by speeding everything up. So they did 3 different interviews in a very short amount of time with all the different staff positions at Hillsdale that they typically would have interview people. And the consensus was not only this person was approved, but that this person they thought was authentic. These are some of the words that they used, right? Authentic, experienced, calming was a word that they thought that they used. So, they had kind of the same impression and experience meeting with this candidate as we did. So those 2 things together, we have full confidence that you're all going to love this person also, but we'll see, right? So I guess where I would leave it is you come and meet this candidate if at all possible when it gets scheduled, and then as you're all good at doing, email the board. And let us know what you think. Thank you.
That's great news.
Thanks, Matt. All right. We have our gala coming up a week from Friday, and Georgia, do you want to give an update on that?
Tickets are on sale until the end of the week on the website, Facebook, Instagram, I think the social media, is it all the social media platforms?
Yeah.
I know that it's in the parent Facebook groups as well, but we encourage people to come and spend the evening with us. It will be at 5 p.m. next Friday, April 24th, at the Marriott Hotel in Pewaukee, right off of 94, and I believe it's Highway F. It's a different venue this year than in years past. We have, I think we're approaching 75 or 80 silent auction items, and we have some really fantastic big ticket items for the live auction. And our keynote speaker, his name is Lee Habib, and he does American history stories. So he's a national syndicated guy, and had the pleasure of talking to him a week or so ago, and he sounds really amazing, and he's very involved in the classical school movement. So he will be fantastic, and we invite you and encourage you all to get your friends and come and hang out and have some fun with us celebrating. The theme this year is the character of our community. So in addition to it being this will be the 6th gala, we're going to be featuring our students and some parents and some faculty, and showcasing a lot of the great things that have been done over the course of the last 6 years since its inception. So we please encourage you, get your friends, get other family members, and come watch all the great things that we have to offer that night.
My wife and I are going to be there, and when I just registered, it's my first one, you get to say it like, who do you want to sit with, kind of a thing. I didn't really know anyone, so if you, Matthew Vondre, if you go on there and register and you want to sit with me, that'd be cool, so I'm not on a table by myself.
Yeah, can we turn that into an auction item?
Yeah, so disappointing.
Can I give a shout out? Yeah, I want to give a shout out to the amazing team of volunteers that has been helping with this gala. So I know at least 3 of you were in the room. I think I saw more of you, but could you just raise your hand and stand up if you're sitting?
Thank
Oh yeah, the sign up genius is out there. If anybody would like to volunteer some time, we have shifts going on all day, the day of the event, from AM until, from the setup to the cleanup and the returning of everything to the West Campus. We would love your help. I know there's a sign up genius that's out there. We can contact Nikki Coco, contact me. Again, anything and everything that you'd like to do, we'd be more than happy to get you into a slot. Thank you.
All right, thanks. And then legal counsel status, I know this has been ongoing a little bit, so I don't know, Skylar, Ellen, if you want to say anything about that.
Yeah, we recently reviewed our relationship with our legal counsel as it relates to particularly freedom of information requests. Some of you may know and be aware that there's been a significant number of freedom of information requests over the last year. And that process takes a lot of time. It's something that our administrative staff has to spend the time to follow up on some of those requests and produce those documents. Some of those requests are extremely voluminous and take a significant amount of time. They're extremely broad, and it takes away time from the administrative team's day-to-day jobs. And in a discussion with the administrative team, particularly Dr. Wozniak, who fills those requests, one of the comments that he made to me is these requests are extremely time-consuming for him and take away time that he would rather devote in other areas. As a public entity, I know we have an obligation to provide the information that's necessary, but I encourage folks who are making freedom of information requests to be very concise in what you're looking for. Keep in mind that, again, you're taking away time from what I would argue is largely the mission of the school, ensuring the hearts and minds of our students. So we made a change. We have not, over the last couple weeks, been responding to those requests as we evaluated different legal counsel assistance on that. And so we have identified new counsel at the law firm of Hurley and Burish to assist with the freedom of information request. So if you've made a freedom of information request and you've not yet received it, the reason why is because we are in the process of changing how that's handled. I also want to address a broader topic that I think is relevant. There are a lot of requests that are made. There's something on the agenda, and then most of the community are here probably because you saw the letter from Hillsdale that was addressed to the board and some of the administrative staff last week. There's a process for sharing information with the community, and that is the freedom of information request. There's certainly no intent to keep that information private, but that information was shared with the community outside of a freedom of information request process, which to me is concerning. It undermines the process that we have as a school. We have, our mission, again, the values that we stand for as a community. It's a concerning thing when we have something that doesn't follow process. We're trying to, work through the process. The process isn't an end-all, be-all, but it's undermining the board, the teachers, and our community and our students, most importantly, when things are shared in a way that's not helpful to the community. So I challenge each of you, the board, and the faculty, and our relationship with Hillsdale, to operate in a way that is handled with integrity and would be something that you'd be proud to stand behind if what happens in secret or in the privacy of anonymity were to be made public. So that's all that I have to say about that.
Ellen, do you have anything to add there?
No. And just to add on to your last point, documents have to be reviewed in case, generally things are open. That's the default, open to the public, but we have to review them for anything that falls under an exclusion for a privacy concern, all kinds of things. So I think that's just to add on to what Skylar was saying, that there's a process that needs to be followed in review of any release of documents to ensure that we're in full compliance with the law.
Okay. Couple more items on the president's report. One, I want to make sure you all know, and this has been in the works, as you will find out for a while, as soon as our head principal is on board, meaning contract is signed, I will step aside as board president, and we will let our next, whoever that is, president, take over. In the interim, it would be Georgia as vice president. So I wanted to let you know that was occurring. So I will not step aside as a board member, but I will step aside as president. So I had an agenda item on here, communication with Hillsdale. And I wanted to give you a little bit of a timeline here, because I know this letter came out and is floating around here that Skylar just referred to. So I want to tell you, when you're in this position, and Tom's been there, and I think I saw Christina here, she's been there, it's tough because people make a bunch of assumptions about what's going on. They don't have all the information, they don't have all the context. So I am going to tell you, because I promised a lot of you that I was going to do everything possible to keep this Hillsdale member school. So I'm going to tell you right now what I did, and I want you to please listen carefully. So we have had weekly calls with Hillsdale and have continued to ensure our lines of communication are open exactly as we told you that we would do. We've met it every week without fail. This has included some combination of me, Tom, Matthew, Ellen a few times, but we can't have more than 2 at a time due to public meeting law. And I felt these meetings were productive. So on March 30th, Matthew and I met with Dr. O'Toole. She indicated at the meeting that we are not trying hard enough to show them that we deserve member status. I was surprised by that, and I explained to her that we had identified a very strong head principal candidate that had his first interview with Hillsdale scheduled the very next day. We had identified 2 strong board member candidates that were both Hillsdale grads and strong supporters. I told her I would resign as president once the head principal was secured to minimize disruption and risk not scaring a candidate away by having a bunch of changes during this process. And I told her there was no decisions to replace our current East and West campus leaders, but we may have to reassign some duties to meet state law requirements upon Margaret's official departure date, which is April 10th. So you need a licensed administrator to function as a school legally. So, to my surprise, on March 31st, Dr. O'Toole sent a letter to the board in conflict with our previous agreement not to send any written communications, which Tom was there. Tom actually suggested that, and it was agreed to, but to instead discuss any concerns in our Monday meetings. In this letter, she said, for our Hillsdale affiliation to continue to endure, she wants to see 4 things. 1, secure a Hillsdale vetted and approved leader. Our candidate was already in the process with an interview scheduled at that point in time, so check. Ensure stability of administration, which, as I just mentioned to you, we had already done that with our school leaders. Identify new leadership at the board level. I've told her multiple times in the past month and even longer that my intention was to resign when the new head principal was secured, including the day before she sent this letter. And 4, to discontinue the executive director position. I had told her multiple times previously that John Wu was open to modifying his contract once the head principal is in place, and I told her that including the day before this letter was sent. So I was puzzled by the need for this letter since I felt all her requests had already been accommodated. On April 1st, I sent an email to the board with a summary of the Monday meeting with Dr. O'Toole. I thought they must be wondering what the heck happened at that meeting to elicit a letter like that from Dr. O'Toole seemingly out of the blue. I wanted to be sure they knew that I was as surprised as they were. Or at least it must have been. On Monday, April 6th, before our Monday meeting, I sent Dr. O'Toole an email of summary points I wanted to share about enrollment, board candidates, licensing, and faculty retention, among other things. I was truly excited to share what I thought was really good news. Later that day, we had a briefer than normal weekly meeting, which I thought was very cordial. She even thanked Tom and I for meeting at the end. Since our Monday meeting was brief, I followed up with Dr. O'Toole on 4-8 to see if the summary points I provided at the 4-6 meeting were clear and if she had any questions. I received no response, so assumed that everything was fine. On 4-9, Matthew Vondre received a call from Hillsdale sharing the good news that our head principal candidate was through the vetting process and officially approved by Hillsdale. Later that same day, 4/9, we received a letter from Dr. O'Toole that has now been posted everywhere. This time, she modified her request from the 331 letter, making them more onerous and specific, while this time adding that we should have no more than 5 board members until the end of the next school year. She made clear that if we do not implement her recommendations, we will lose our Hillsdale member support. I am not sure what happened between 331 and 4/9, those 2 letters, since I thought the limited communication in between with Dr. O'Toole was nothing but positive. On Monday, 4/13, I sent a letter to Dr. O'Toole explaining why meeting her requests could present legal and fiduciary challenges for the board, and that it would be extremely difficult to meet her timeline without violating our lawful duties as public board members. I assured her we wanted to both meet our public board member obligations and remain a Hillsdale school. On 4/14, she responded to my letter defending her position while stating that her timelines are not artificial and the board may elect to pursue member status by meeting her requests or pursue curriculum status if not. So before I wind up here, I want to mention something that's going to be helpful in our later discussion. But it's something that was addressed in the last 2 letters that I think is going to require clarification. So I'm not a lawyer, but have read a lot about the law as it relates to public institutions since becoming an LCCA board member. And I want to share something with you because I think this will be helpful. So I have learned that there is a common sense concept underlying the law that says public institutions are funded by taxpayers should not be controlled by should be controlled by independent entities like boards, so that decisions made are in the best interests of taxpayers. So this seems to make sense intuitively, since when third parties are involved, it's easy to see where there might be concern in the eyes of the law because third parties may have conflicts where the interests of the taxpayers are not prioritized. So the question is then, what constitutes control? So control can be obvious where you hand the keys to a third party and tell them to have at it. That's an easy way to identify. Or it can be more subtle, where you provide guidance or recommendations with strings attached that if you don't accept them. So this is referred to in the law as de facto control, where it is the facts that matter rather than the words that are written or spoken. So this is my concern with the letters I received from Dr. O'Toole on 331 and especially 4/9. It has been made clear that the board must accept Hillsdale recommendations by specific dates or lose member support. To accommodate, the board would be required to make decisions it otherwise likely would not make, or make decisions sooner than it otherwise would without outside influence. Should we blindly comply, this could lead to challenges from DPI or even the IRS, which both appear to have control tests, risking our charter, our state funding, and our tax-exempt status. This could potentially be an existential threat to LCCA. So on the surface, it may appear that by not complying with all of Dr. O'Toole's recommendations, that is done in defiance of Hillsdale. But it should instead be looked at as being done in defense of LCCA, its board members, and Hillsdale College itself. We should absolutely consider the recommendations of Dr. O'Toole, but we cannot and should not change our actions based on the influence of any third party. To do so would be a failure to meet our obligations as fiduciaries of public funds. So I want to give you that context. We're going to circle back later and talk about some of these things more specifically. So from there, I will open it up for public comments. And if I sound more passionate than normal, it's just annoying that I've kept quiet on these things for so long, trying to cover for other people and things going on, hoping things would go away, but they keep getting worse. So that's why if I seem more passionate today, that's exactly why. So on public comments, we have a 3-minute time limit, which I will strictly enforce. I just want to ask for your help in doing so, and I'm going to ask Georgia to get the clock out and help too. And it's not because we don't want to hear from you. If you didn't have a chance to make a comment or finish your thoughts within the 3 minutes, please feel free to contact us using the board's email found on the website, and I promise you we will respond to you. I'll generously interpret this policy that the comment should be related to agenda items, but just ask that you refrain from calling out students, teachers, administrators by name, or any reference that points to specific individuals. And if there's names that are required, please use the board email and address those there. So with that, Georgia, I'll let you get started with public comments. We have quite a few here, so.
And I want to let people know in the doorways that there's a few seats here, and we can pull a few more seats if anyone would like to sit. We just want, I know it's really hot in here. Okay, no particular order. Tim Nelson, Mr. Nelson.
I recognize this is a tough one for you guys, really tough. But you need to hear from teachers, and I'm sure you'll hear from a number of teachers tonight. When you think about a faculty, there's probably a tendency to think, well, the faculty all thinks the same way. Having taught in a public school for 28 years, there was a tendency for that to be the case. Here, my experience is we tend to teach in our own little worlds. And up till last October, that was fairly comfortable, and then this happened. So I think what's happened is now teachers are, what do you think? How's this? And I know how I felt immediately when I found out about Mrs. Hagedorn, and you heard me, but my stance and my position deviates from folks who have a different opinion. In that process, since that time, I think as we've had a chance to process and think and learn from each other about what this means, I think we've come closer and closer together in terms of having a united voice about what this means. And with respect to everything you've said, and I appreciate all of that background knowledge, in spite of all of that, Tim Nelson says we need to do this. We absolutely need to follow Dr. Rutuz, and I encourage you strongly to move in this direction. Thank you.
Emily Fertitta. Oh, there's two T. Fertitta?
I'm Emily Fertitta. I'm a parent here. I'm just going to read a letter briefly. It's from one of the teachers in first grade. Dear LCCA board, my name is Jessica Dwyer, and I'm a first grade teacher at LCCA. It is my opinion that we need to remain in good standing with Hillsdale College by honoring their recent requests in the letter to you dated April 9th, 2026. In past meetings, the board and some families have said that the faculty and staff are the heart of this school, and LCCA wouldn't be a school without us. If this is truly the case, then you need to listen to us. The blatant disregard for our letter to you in January was not only disrespectful, but quite frankly insulting. That tells the LCCA community that the faculty's opinions do not matter. It is time to put your pride aside and do what is best for the school. Sincerely, Jessica Dwyer. I am speaking for myself now as a parent. When I got this letter, I'm just going to use the rest of my time. When I got this letter, I was surprised to understand that almost all of it really is about the students and the teachers. It's about the community. It's not about Randy and it's not about, Mr. Wu. It's about the students and the teachers and the community at hand. And as far as tax money goes and all of the legality of that, it says this work with schools is made possible by tens of thousands of friends of Hillsdale College who give generously to the support and growth of Hillsdale's classical school model. As stewards of these gifts, Hillsdale College must decide whether to affiliate with schools based on their fidelity and to the ability to execute the Hillsdale program. I believe that they are doing nothing to hurt our community. They're trying to be a backstop to what is already falling apart under the latest leadership. And the last thing I'll say is, this letter doesn't say to step aside after the next principal is found. It says to resign as a board member. It's frank, it's completely clear. You can't wiggle your way to the side and hope that you're getting half the people happy and half not. It's asking for 3 bullet points, and I fail to see how that is not easy to fulfill. Thank you.
Megan Wagner.
Hi, I'm just going to read some of what I sent to the board yesterday evening. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Megan Wagner. I am the college counselor here at LCCA. And I have the great privilege of walking alongside our incredible high school students as they make big decisions regarding this future and begin transition into adulthood. I consider it a joy to bring my teaching background and college admissions experience together to serve our students and families in this way. Concerns about our current management situation. While I understand that you are in the process of interviewing a new head principal and cannot speed up the process, I encourage you to consider making a change sooner rather than later. I understand that there was a letter from Hillsdale to the board on April 9th in which they also encourage and expect you to take action on or before today's date. A number of faculty and staff are eager to see you take action this evening. First of all, I'd like to speak regarding employment contracts. I have not yet received a contract for next year, nor have I been given the courtesy of a conversation or even an email to indicate whether I will or will not be receiving a 26-27 contract. I am not the only employee in this situation. While teacher contracts were issued at the end of spring break, at least 12 employees still have not received contracts. Some of these employees have had conversations and a verbal offer, but that was not the case for all of us. When can we expect to know whether we will receive employment offers from LCCA for next year? By what date will we have to respond to these potential offers? The situation with contracts has resulted in continued distrust of the executive director and board. When can we expect to know what is happening with the leadership team and leadership structure? This plays into staff and faculty decisions about whether or not to return. On the Friday before spring break, the executive director and a board member held meetings with teachers to indicate whether they would or would not have contracts renewed. I see several issues with how these meetings occurred, primarily a board member's involvement in this process, as it shows that they are no longer a governing board, but invested in the day-to-day operations of the school. This shows that they are not governing, but they are managerial. The expectation of a Hillsdale affiliated school is to be a governing board. Are you a governing or managerial board going forward? What is your intention there? Furthermore, the executive director does talk about employees to other employees. I find that inappropriate and unprofessional. Who is holding him accountable in his actions? Our business office person, Mary, recently resigned, and I have heard that the executive director, another employee who could not be here tonight, shared with me and wanted me to share, that the executive director stated that he has no intention of posting that position anytime soon. I do not think outsourcing this responsibility to an outside organization is a sustainable and wise long-term solution. Again, who is holding him responsible for his actions and decisions? Teachers and staff are largely unwilling to participate in the gala in terms of donating experiences for the auction. At the time of writing this, I'd heard only 2 people had donated experiences thus far, participating in gala video snapshots and attending. This communicates where the majority of faculty and staff are in their feelings about the present situation of the school and the uncertainty of the school's future. It is an indicator of low morale, continued discouragement, and distrust. What do you plan to do to rebuild trust among faculty and staff, thereby improving morale? Will you continue to take no action regarding the letter from 75% of our faculty and staff in January and the similar letter from parents in February? Thank you for listening.
Christina Ward.
Just so you know, Emily, that Georgia being in the meetings was, that was recommended by legal counsel, just so you know.
Christina Boras.
Good evening. As an LCCA parent and school founder, I'd like to address the importance of the Hillsdale College member school affiliation and share a little history on how LCCA came to be and how Hillsdale College has been an essential partner and key to our success from the very start. In the LCCA board's original prospectus that we submitted to our authorizer, the first authorizer, the LCO Ojibwe College, in July of 2019, our founding board committed to the following. Hillsdale College will provide the architecture of LCCA's academic program and will provide guidance during the founding process and beyond. In addition, the Hillsdale BCSI team will assist us with our principal search and provide ongoing board and teacher training. This is the original prospectus. Would love to share it with you all if you're interested. I'm happy to take a look. The Hillsdale College Member School Affiliation drew support from the William S. Knight Foundation and others who have been vital in the launch and survival of LCCA. It brought us amazing teachers who are here because it's a Hillsdale supported classical school. We've weathered the storms with Hillsdale at our side. When the LCO Ojibwe College gave our board an ultimatum, it's us or Hillsdale, we were forced to choose between our blood, Hillsdale, or oxygen the authorizer. The decision was unanimous. The board chose Hillsdale. We knew then that our joint mission and purpose was not something we were willing to sacrifice. Transitioning LCCA to a Hillsdale curriculum school will have irreversible and devastating effects. Our teachers, the heart and soul of this school, will no longer receive the free training, resources, and support from the Hillsdale K-12 team. Over time, the Hillsdale curriculum would most likely get watered down and perhaps not used at all. At that point, LCCA would become a victim of mission drift, a shell of what it once was. But tonight, the board can ensure that this doesn't happen. Our teachers and staff and future generations of students are depending on you to regain the Hillsdale member school status. I hope the LCCA board may rise above the noise and do the right thing for the soul of our school and the mission that you have sworn to protect. Thank you.
Lindsay Zundell?
Okay. Hi, good evening. My name is Lindsay Zundell. I'm a parent at LCCA. Dr. Larry Arnn, president of Hillsdale College, just recently said that the 250th anniversary of our country is an opportunity for recovery, for remembering that America is not held together by coercion or grievance, but by devotion to equality and liberty. I've been thinking about that line because it applies to more than nations. It applies to schools. It applies to this school. Communities are not held together by coercion or grievance either. They are held together by shared devotion to something higher than ourselves, in our case, the education and flourishing of our children. As Dr. Kathleen O'Toole said in her article, Teaching and the Noble Work of Education, no remote system of control or bureaucracy can supplant the knowledge, interest, and love that local communities bring to bear, primarily through parents and teachers on the education of the young. I'm here tonight to voice my support for our local board and Randy Gosel as board president. It has been a rare privilege to watch Randy lead through these past several months. Honestly, most of us go through our entire lives without getting a close look at leadership of this caliber. He has faced personal attacks and real vitriol, and he has met all of it with grace, humility, and courage. He has tried to build bridges, has heard people out even when what they've had to say has been hard to hear, and has sacrificed hundreds of hours without pay to support us as a school community. He is one of the very few people in school leadership I have consistently heard place the children of LCCA at the center of every decision. He is honorable, he is good-hearted, and he has worked in good faith with every party at this school, even when that good faith has not initially been returned. Tonight itself is an example. The fact that Randy was willing to bring Dr. O'Toole's letter forward for open discussion before public comment so that all of you and all of us could talk about it together is exactly the kind of leadership this school needs. We have had presidents in the past who would have silenced that conversation. Randy invited it, even though it's hard to talk about. I ask this board to stand firm and unwavering in your support of him. You have the leadership and the decision-making authority for this school's unique needs, and the families have trust in you to use it. Please continue on the path that Randy is guiding us down. Thank you.
Brandon Murray?
I am a high school teacher at LCCA. I've been here since the beginning. Let me just acknowledge that everyone has the very best of intentions. Everyone loves their kids, they love the school. But there's a problem with viewing a school as a Burger King. Everyone gets a little bit of what they want. You can't be a particular thing with that mentality. So just to make things simple, here it is. Parents and teachers and administrators are constantly saying we love the teachers. That's why we're here. We love the teachers. We admire the teachers. I'm here to tell you, you can't have it both ways. You can't have the school that you want your way and have us. I promise you, you will lose your teachers if you keep following the leadership. I promise personally that that is the case. I will not return under these conditions. I came here across the country to serve at a Hillsdale school for a specific vision that Hillsdale administers, and this talk, the self-justifying talk about Hillsdale coercing is bullcrap. We signed up for it. That's why we're here. And you can't say on the one hand that we want to be at the school because we value the teachers, and then discount the teachers at the same time. You can't have it both ways. Pick one. I will not serve at a school that deviates from the Hillsdale vision. That's not what I signed up for. So pick.
Jake Peterson?
Good afternoon or evening, everyone. Just a quick thing to say that the course of the school is going to change today. And we're here with very little input in the community, and yet we still may see this relationship with Hillsdale change dramatically. For all the words spoken of the desire to be a full partner of Hillsdale, that may just end today. And if allowed to occur, this, in my opinion, is going to fit a pattern of change in opposition to the founding mission and values of the LCCA that has been happening for some time now. I ask the board to consider this as the actions or inactions tonight will set the course of the future of the school. Thank you.
Mark Van Astelen?
Good evening. Hillsdale is a part of LCCA's foundation, and we heard it from the founding person herself. The founding board sought out and chose Hillsdale to be their partner from the beginning. Opinions can change and lessons are learned, but Hillsdale is integral to the very life and daily operation of LCCA. There are people in our community who have wanted a Hillsdale school in our area since the Barney Charter School initiative began. There are current students wanting to speak at these meetings to make known how much they love their education and want to stay at LCCA. There are people who travel hours each day to send their kids here. This is the only K-12 Hillsdale candidate or member school in the state of Wisconsin. LCCA is a rare and meaningful place. It has largely been possible because of the support, direction, and mission setting of Hillsdale. Sure, there are flaws. There are things that need to be changed and revised. And unfortunately, there are people that have come and gone. And that is sad. But the foundation is something to be built on, not demolished. Some have suggested that this situation is like a schoolyard ultimatum between children picking their friends. This is not a children's playground conflict, and this is not a disagreement among equals. Hillsdale is like a parent, a mentor, an authority figure who is watching a young person they care about going down the wrong path. They care enough to stay involved, even when they're displeased or discouraged. But at some point, the authority figure chooses to show tough love and to be firm in their guidance for the safety and well-being of their loved one. That's where we find ourselves in relation to Hillsdale. Hillsdale is written into the founding documents, the charter agreement, and the board requirements of LCCA. Moving away from Hillsdale will fundamentally change the operation and quite possibly the sustainability of LCCA for the future, which is also an existential threat to the school. Direction, not intention, determines your destination, and we need to course correct now.
Yes.
I have heard firsthand about parents who have cried at the opportunity and the blessing of sending their kids here. I have heard firsthand of teachers who are discouraged because of the wonderful environment they built and sustain hangs in the balance. The life and joy has been sucked out of this place recently, and you can tell by looking at the students and teachers' faces. But I understand the timing and tone of this recent messaging is hard to understand and process, but it actually makes our path clear. I implore the board to do the right thing by the majority of these families, the students, and all the teachers and staff who have given their lives to build this place because of what Hillsdale means to them. Thank you.
Millie Walker?
Is that Millie Walker?
Millie Walker, yes.
Hi, my name is Millie Walker, and I teach writing at LCCA. I wanted to give you a little bit of my story. In second grade, I was annoying my teacher to a crazy degree, and she finally said, all right, you're going to go teach these kids that don't get it yet. And since then, all I wanted to do my whole life was become a teacher. I never questioned it. I never thought twice about it. And I went into college thinking, I'm going to teach at a public school. And I got to understand the system. I studied what goes on in the schools that are more open and are more common. And I realized how many issues there are. So I grabbed every book I could get my hand on to try to figure out where can I teach that I can help people? I want kids to learn. I want them to look at themselves the day before and know they are now a greater person from what they've learned. And I read this incredible book by a guy named Thomas Sowell. He writes a lot. And it's about charter schools. And he talks a lot about the things that have caused public schools to fail and the things that have caused what happens. One of the biggest was when there is a wrong relationship between the school and the board. And when that board steps into the daily life of the school, what happens is the teachers are no longer able to have autonomy over their classroom. They are no longer able to use the expertise that they have cultivated through years of study and through years of intentional growth to be able to convey things best to their students. And I then looked into every charter school I could find. What's the best one I can find? And I found Hillsdale Charter Schools, and I was so psyched. There was one in my area. I was going to apply. The admission seems fire. The people are amazing. And everyone said, your first year of teaching is awful. And I said, no way. I love this. I know this. I want this. And this week, for the first time, I questioned whether or not I wanted to be a teacher. Because there's so much instability. There's a feeling of no assurance that next year I have a place to teach. There is no security in understanding that I will be able to teach all of those things that I have so intentionally cultivated a knowledge of, that I read books on outside in my spare time because one random teacher recommended it and I was like, cool, I can learn more, thank you, I want to help these kids. And the feeling lasted about 5 minutes, and then my next class started, and I was in the room with the kids again. And guys, you have the coolest kids ever. Thank you for the privilege of being able to teach them. But I can't exist like this. I can't exist every other day, worried, exhausted, and frustrated. And I love the kids. I love the community. I love Economowalk. This school is so cool. And guys, you have the opportunity to keep it that way. But we can't exist like this. We can't exist in the constant tension, and we can't teach as well as we would like to. And out of love for the kids and a desire for them to have the best experience and the best learning that they could possibly have, we humbly ask you to listen per our previous letter, per my previous statement. We need Hillsdale, guys. This is what protects us from being the public schools. Thank you.
Jennifer Meinhardt.
So I'm Jennifer Meinhardt. I am the Literature Department Chair. I run the House System at West Campus. This is my end of my third year teaching here. I've taught in private schools, Christian schools, satellite schools, university, public, and now here at Hillsdale Charter School. Hillsdale is a partner with us in a great task that is countercultural. And I wouldn't say that it's a bureaucracy move. I would say that it's contractual. We entered into a contract with them that had certain parameters. And I think Hillsdale has done well, as our board has done well, to meet and work to make sure that that partnership of contract can remain so we can accomplish our shared mission. And I appreciate Randy readjusting the agenda to help give that backstory. We just don't have Hillsdales. The letter, and I puzzled over why the faculty letter was mentioned so often. And then it clicked at 2 a.m. during, thunderstorm sirens and whatnot. I think it's because they're reminding the board that in the end, what we have here is local. It is us, our board, our teachers, parents, your wonderful students. And that if we can come together, this is us making a choice. It's not Hillsdale's maybe just highlighting the fact that this is what we need to be reminded of. This is what we came together in the first place to do. And so maybe if there's a sense of an ultimatum here or coercion, maybe it's just a way to open up our eyes and say, this is what we have fought for so long. And I have to tell you that starting in school is no easy thing. And even though I've taught for over 20 years, it was still my first year, again, 3 years ago when I came here. It is wicked tough. Any first year is a first year, no matter how long you've been teaching. And we are losing ground this year. Instead of building for our next set of 5, we have had to tread water and lose ground. And no matter what happens in leadership for next year, it is going to be in many ways another first year. I hope it's another first year with Hillsdale as a partner, because I, for one, have benefited greatly, and I went in skeptical to my first teaching year there. But I saw the genuineness in what all that they wined and dined us and poured into us, and I understood the value of that. We needed that. A curriculum school could not ever. We would fail into drift so easily. And I just want you to know that we have gladly borne the burden and the lift and the carriage of not just building a new school and not all of us starting over our first year 1 all over again, and to create and form and craft and mold ourselves and to teach your children. That is a huge lift. I'm sorry. Please, just let us keep going with Hillsdale, because it would be starting over at ground zero. We would be a brand new school all over again, and that's not something I'm sure all of us have the strength to do the second time over. Thank you.
It's not very loud, I'm very sorry. I'm very sorry about that. Tom Gale?
Sorry, my back to good evening, everyone, and thank you, board. I'm the product of the classical education. I'm a graduate of Hillsdale College, and I was a member of that board for the first 2 years of this school's existence. I cite this information only to give some context to my comments. The question is abundantly clear. Who shall govern LCCA? Will it be the duly constituted board seated before us tonight, or will it be one individual? As this question is pondered, I urge all parties to consider how this matter will look to 2 specific individuals. First, to the Waukesha County Executive, who authorized the charter of this school and whose office will be up on the ballot 1 year from now. And second, to the finalist candidate referenced by Randy earlier tonight for the now vacant position of head principal. All of this surrounds a school whose charter is authorized by a publicly elected official and is funded by the taxpayers of Wisconsin. This school has received summarily issued directives from an officer of a private institution located outside the boundaries of our state. I have long supported, with my words, my actions, and my wife and my finances, Hillsdale's stance of refusing to comply with federal regulations, a stance that is predicated on the reality that they accept no government funds. Now, we see the offices of that same institution issue arbitrary demands to this board, demands which would exert control over who its members are, the number of said members, the way its money is spent, and what the school's organizational structure shall be. The hypocrisy inherent in these demands is all but breathtaking. Dr. O'Toole does get something right in her letter. The foundation of a classical education, of which I am a product, lies in the content of its curriculum and the competence of its teachers. It does not require the designation of member school, and it does not lie in the arbitrary and capricious control she seeks to exercise over this school. Should your collective decision determine it is best to accept Dr. O'Toole's terms, I say, so be it. But then I suggest, if this is the decision you reach, you also dissolve yourselves as a governing unit and hand over the management of this school and the keys to the buildings to whomever she so designates. Instead, I urge you to follow the path that your intellect, your convictions, and your convictions prescribe, as exercised under the liberties afforded to you as board members of a Wisconsin public charter school. Lastly, I want to acknowledge and thank this board, and in particular, the mighty work of Randy Godsell and John Wu, and for their unflagging dedication to this school. I wish you the best in your deliberations. Thank you.
thunder ushers you in. Teachers, thank you. Part where I get a little emotional, I talk about my kids. 4 boys in this school. So I was started here first as a kindergartner, and I would love for him to graduate here as a senior. That's my desire. I want it. It's going to be hard for me to do it though. I have been on a school board. I have been a teacher. We chose to move to Oconomowoc from Fort in part because of this school. Not because it was a classical education, sorry, at all, in fact, but because it was a Hillsdale school. Without Hillsdale, I would not be here, and neither would many other Pizuricks. In the February school board meeting, one of the board members stated, and I quote, "If we are no longer a Hillsdale school, then I will resign." After that statement, most of the board spoke up in agreement how important Hillsdale is to this school and success, including the board president. The others nodded in agreement. I took special note of that and wrote the perfect memo to myself to remember. So now here we are. Will you be a man or woman of integrity? Proverbs 10:9. Whoever walks in integrity walks securely, but he who makes his ways crooked will be found out. I believe the choice is clear. Now there is a small number of parents and online section and chatter that say we do not need Hillsdale, and Hillsdale is the bulletin. Although I respect the right for people, and many of the people that have spoken and have opinions like that, I believe this is misguided, and I believe the school board agrees, based on their own words and nods. Therefore, we shall abide by Hillsdale recommendation. No, this is not a one-person recommendation, as is accused. This is an experienced Hillsdale. Don't be fooled. Randy, sorry to use your name. I know you love the school and the children, and you talked. In light of the letter, letter's recommendations, and yes, I have read and studied all available open records, I am asking you with respect to prove that you truly love this school, the students, the teachers, the parents, and completely resign from the board. Not later, not next week, tonight. And I yield the rest of my time, which is none, to Mrs. Wagner.
Randy Mixtor.
This has been very emotional. Thank you for supporting teachers. I would like to address the rumor that I heard this week that staff were coerced into signing the letter in January. I can tell you we were not. We were all grown professional adults. We had ample time to read the letter. We signed it of our own free will. Margaret did not even, I don't even know that she knew about it. She was not anywhere around it. She never spoke to any of us about it. So I'm very insulted that someone would even imply that we're not smart enough to read it for ourselves and that we're that easily manipulated. So I just want you to be clear that the letter was a response to Hillsdale's revocation of our membership. It was not intended to be personal and a personal attack against anyone. It was to show the staff support for Hillsdale membership because we see the benefits of it. We see it in your kids, and I'm a parent. I see it in my own kids, and that's what I want.
Autumn Young.
I'm a parent and a teacher here, and I feel like I view things just differently. I think I would love if we could maintain and partner with Hillsdale. I'm a math trainer, that would be my preference. But at the same time, and if for some reason that
unfolds. I believe in something greater than us. I do believe in a God that is sovereign. And I feel like there are a lot of Christians here in this room. I believe that God can take us in another path. I don't prefer that, but for the good of my own kids that go here, I'll have 3 next year. And for the students that are here that are absolutely incredible, I love them. I believe we can keep going. I think there will be challenges, but I am just believing beyond this difficult time right now. And I believe we can all love and respect one another. And I'll read this scripture that's been on my heart. It's just to encourage all of us, because I believe God does love Hillsdale leaders, the board. I believe God loves our students, our parents, and our staff. And I believe God wants the school to be successful with whatever direction it may go. I'm hopeful for one, but I want to see it through for my own children and students that are currently here. So it's Psalm 23, and I'm going to read it as a collective. The Lord is our shepherd. We shall not want. He makes us lie down in green pastures. He leads us beside quiet waters. He restores our soul. He guides us in paths of righteousness for his name's sake. Even though we walk through the valley of the shadow of death, this is a very fearful time. We will not fear. I will not fear evil. We will not fear. For God, you are with us. Your rod and your staff, they comfort us. You prepare a table before us in the presence of our enemies. And we are not each other's enemy. There's been a lot of division, but I feel the enemy is the invisible enemy, not the people. That's why God wants us to be together, however this turns out. You anoint our head with oil, our cup overflows. Surely goodness and love will follow us all the days of our life, and we will dwell in the house of the Lord forever. Thank you.
Chris Goff.
Ditto what she said. I'm Chris Goff. I have kids in 2nd and 5th grade. I've prepared my remarks just to freestyle a little bit first. I hope everyone picked up on the direct threat issued by a staff member a little earlier. So, Mr. Wu, I hope you're up to speed on labor law, work stoppages, all that sort of thing. The inference was quite clear. Now, my prepared remarks. I'd like to share some of my opinions related to the turmoil we've been through in recent months, and specifically the letter from Katie O'Toole dated 9 April. First, to leave no doubt about where I'm coming from, I believe that Katie is trying to extort the board over a difference of opinion and for preference for Mrs. Hagedorn. The board should tell her no. To each of her demands, number 1, that Randy must resign. As I've watched this saga play out, it's abundantly clear that Randy has acted in good faith to secure the best interests of LCCA. There have rather obviously been disagreements about which actions to take. It's quite clear, but Randy's been deliberate. He's shown wisdom and he's made courageous decisions. In my time in the Army, I saw men cry and beg to go into enemy contact. Mr. Matt Vondry's probably seen similar. I've seen guys rush into fires and explosions to save their friends. This isn't that, but Randy's moral courage has measured up throughout this time. Number 2, to discontinue the executive director role the day before the new principal starts. The board created the new ED role for specific reasons and to achieve specific non-academic goals. The hiring date of the next principal has no bearing on the achievement of those goals, and this demand seems to me to be political maneuvering based on disagreements. Number 3, reducing the board to 5 members. This one initially sort of baffled me because Kitty's explanation, at least to me, wasn't very thorough. I can only speculate on her motives, but the makeup of the board is running a business, in my opinion, and so this seems like a flex by Hillsdale in line with the overall hostage note tone of the letter she sent. So the overall tone and message from Katie is disappointing. Hillsdale has been a great partner and helped LCCA to have a strong foundation. So to freestyle for the people who all disagreed with me, I mean, I agree with a lot of what you said about Hillsdale, to be fair. Back to the letter. I've respected Hillsdale going back to the ads on the Rush Limbaugh show. It's hard for me to see Hillsdale try to extort our board over disagreements that are actually pretty minor if you step back from the drama for a second. I hope we can patch things up with Katie and Hillsdale, but if they approach any disagreement or local deviation with such vindictiveness and heavy-handedness, I don't know what hope there is for compromise or long-term survival under the banner of Hillsdale. So if Katie and Hillsdale won't compromise, the board should tell them no. Because the only other option is to reward their extortion and give up any agency over the future direction of LCCA. Thank you.
Karen Sharkey.
My name is Karen Sharkey. My son is one of the over 350 students that have left this school since year one. Prior to the incredible leadership of this board that has been working tooth and nail to turn things around, and where we find ourselves now is in the crux of that. I love that it's been pointed out that that there's a concern when something that's above us is governing versus or is managerial versus governing. And what's ironic to me is that Hillsdale claims to not govern, to support, to partner, to give guidance. And yet now I see them making demands, sowing discord, creating chaos, and actually being the cause for us losing ground and treading water. Hillsdale had the choice when the decisions were made. They had the choice to say, you know what, teachers, you're going to make it. We're going to all get through this. How can we support the school? Board, what can we do to support you moving forward? But instead, they have created discord. Over and over again, they've sent us spinning in circles. All of the drama that we've had at recent board meetings are because of Dr. O'Toole. When she could have said, hey, this school is going to make it, and what can we do to support you in it? My opinion, personally, is that we should say, we don't negotiate with terrorists. That's my opinion.
What?
We don't negotiate with terrorists. We don't give in to demands that are given from an outside entity that has nothing to do with our actual day-to-day life at school. The way that I see this is that it's ironic for me to want to send my kid to a school to teach them how to think freely. I'm sorry, I was respectful when you were talking. Why would I want to send my kid to a school to teach them to think freely when I'm seeing before my very eyes the teachers themselves becoming brainwashed to not think for themselves and to think that something above them is going to save them? Now, honestly, what I think and what I know is that the earth is the Lord's and everything in it. And I know that LCCA belongs to the Lord. And I believe that from the beginning, the Lord had beautiful plans for this school. And I believe, for goodness sakes, we're saying boys are boys and girls are girls. And I think that the devil said, oh, game on. And you know what? I think that the way the devil said, like, how can I do this? There's a lot of really smart people. Maybe if I can just create an idol. For them to think that this idol is the thing that's going to save them. And then, you know what happens with idols is you eventually have to bow down to them and kowtow to them and say, we will meet your demands because you are all powerful, Hillsdale. Instead of saying, no, we were committed to this from the beginning because of truth, because of virtue, and because of moral courage. The moral courage is to stand up to bullies and say, we will not be bought. We will not face your demands because our children are what matter most. The last thing I want to say is, from what I understand correctly and from the digging that I have done, Wisconsin charter law requires the board to be independent. And the IRS private interest rule prohibits one 501c3 from attempting to control another 501c3 through management or board demands. The entity that makes the threat risks losing IRS tax-exempt status, and the entity that acquiesces risks the same serious legal implications. So from what I understood from Randy said, if the board acquiesces
to these demands, we're gone. We are gone. So we break the law and say, yes, okay, Katie O'Toole. I'm sorry, I didn't hear it. Thank you.
I know, it's really quiet, but you were interrupted. I'm sorry that people were not respectful while you were speaking. Yep. Is it Desi?
Yeah.
Or Desi?
Yeah.
Okay.
Desiree Stapleton. I'm a parent of 2 children that attend this school. I will say when we started at LCCA, we were leaving KM because of the lack of values, the lack of command and control by the leadership, and the time spent on screens, and the lack of teacher engagement. When looking for a solution, we were limited. My son had a 504. Private school was not an option. There were plenty of funds. There was no option for my son to go anywhere else. We found this school, and we came here enthusiastically because of Hillsdale. That's it. I appreciate the classical curriculum. I heard amazing things about the teachers, and I will say that this school has literally changed my life. And I cry every time. I swore I wouldn't. Literally changed my 16-year-old son's life. He would be in a horrible state. It was because of Margaret and the culture she created for students of virtuousness and the way that she made sure that she knew that, or they knew that they cared about her. She would not take any crap. It was fundamental to the founding of this school, and we came because of her and Hillsdale. And I will just add that is the delivery assurance that every parent needs. I know that you all have your hearts in the right place, but as for me to refer additional parents to come here, my cousins, my friends, to say, please bring your kids to this school. It is that Hillsdale oversight, their curriculum, and the fact that I trust that institution more than 5, 6 people that I've never met before. I've never heard your names before, other than when I see these letters. And I expressed last time I was here the frustration with lack of communication. The ability to understand that all of this was going on is, you may say it's in the open, but it is not pushed to parents. We have to communicate and share letters and see things like this by going to a particular website and knowing exactly when things are happening. There's no emailing or anything like that other than occasionally what Dr. Wu has been doing, which has been great. But this board is not what is going to make or break the school. It is that Hillsdale curriculum, that Hillsdale support, and these teachers. And our family will be leaving if that goes away for something else with more stability, because this is not it.
Just a few comments before we move to the next thing. So Hillsdale changed my life too, Desiree, so I totally relate to that, and that is why I am here. I want to make sure everybody's clear. We want to be a member school, and that's why I read everything to you. And if you, probably these letters will all come out at some point. I want you to see everything I did to try and keep it that way. So that is exactly what we wanted. That's what we still want. We do not want to change the mission of the school. If things go and Hillsdale says, cut you off your curriculum school, we do not change to attend the mission and values of the school. So I hope that doesn't happen, but I want you to know that. The faculty is awesome. They are the centerpiece of the school. They're our greatest asset. None of us argue with that whatsoever. I want to remind everybody we have a new principal that will be starting in maybe even a couple weeks. So if you're worried about forward interfering operations, or you're worried about leadership and stability, I can tell you, as Matthew said, I think this is the person that's going to bring peace and bring the two sides together. So it is not about, don't want to be here, I'll speak for myself, that I don't want this to be a member school. It is about meeting our fiduciary obligations by the law in order to get there. So that's what I was trying to point out. That's my concern here. Not that I don't want to be a member school, not that I want to defy Dr. O'Toole. It is, there's a path to get there where we can stay within our fiduciary obligations and not be dependent on demands that you have to do this do that by this date, because a lot of those things are going to happen anyway. So in my mind, the conversation we need to have here is with Dr. O'Toole, asking her if she can relax some of these restrictions so that we can get on that path to be a member school, and that way we can both meet our fiduciary liability requirements and still be a member school, and that's what I've asked her in the most recent letter.
In the interest of transparency, would Dr. O'Toole and the board be willing to have a meeting with the parents? Like,
You can't speak for Dr. O'Toole.
I know you can't speak for her, but if you would be willing to propose it so that, because we are literally only seeing what Dr. O'Toole puts in writing and what you
I'll just say this, just so we can kind of keep order here, but I will say this. Those of you who have reached out and have these concerns or the great passionate statements, I would suggest maybe you reach out to her and ask her to do that. I think that would be great. Okay, thanks everyone. Those were all, whatever your view, very passionate and heartfelt comments, so thank you.
Question?
I think,
Please go.
I think it should be noted too that my inbox has been inundated with emails and letters offering multiple points of view, and I know I'm not the only board member, but I would think that all of us were copied on those, and I would just encourage you all to read them. I am not sure that I got through all of what was sent to my inbox, but there's a lot of passion and a lot of involvement here, so the letters need to make sure that they touch all of us as well, for the people who wrote them.
Tom?
Just for clarity, now that we've heard all of this, all of the public comment, at what point, so there will be a point in the meeting where we discuss and vote on the 3 pieces of guidance. Are we thinking that's at 7B?
I put them in separate items, but 7B through
7B is where this discussion will take place.
Yeah.
Okay.
Was that a question?
I wanted to, because it's not explicitly called out on the agenda. I just wanted
We'll get a short break and discuss school business, then we'll get back to.
Sure.
To that.
I'd like to just address a couple things that were said in the comments as well, because they relate to that.
Okay.
You can do with that or not, but.
Whatever you do.
Well, I think just as a matter of, I understand, I just want, at least how I feel, I understand the analysis that you provided, whether or not we can take action or not. Just to be clear, that's not an official legal position of the board. Like, that's not a board position. I understand there was some research done, but.
It's a concern.
It's a concern. That's a better way to state it. It just, so everyone is aware wasn't an official position that the board's advice the board sought. And I sincerely, everything that I'm going to talk about later tonight is with the intent to keep this as a Hillsdale school. But there is a lot of passion, as you talked about a few times, and it's really important for people to properly channel their passion. And I think if we can just go ahead and forward, channel it in a proper way where we're not using hyperbole to describe certain people or actions and not keep it personal, I think that would serve everybody better.
Here. Agreed. John, Executive Director report.
Sure. You guys want copies of this? It's too short. You guys have any computer you want?
I got it.
I got it.
I kept this short just because in anticipation of extensive discussion ourselves, so just keep me in 2 most pertinent things. Update on enrollment status. We've had a little bit of a shifting, but ultimately, at least as far as the numbers in the system, we're sitting at 560 for the 26-27.
Can you talk louder?
Yeah. As far as enrollment stands, there's been a little bit of shifting of numbers. I think from last week, we ticked up 2 2 slots with a total of 560 respectively looking for next year. Again, as it has always been the case, parents have the family, and families have the ability to get their deposits up until right before the first day of school. So everything is always subject to change, but that is where things stand as far as the system. Other things, because we had initiated the process as of last board meeting, and just a status of the teaching faculty agreements. This is just the breakdown of, in terms of offers of agreements for next year, upper school, lower school, special education, total of 55 offers extended, and we sit at 52 acceptances, with 1 as an exception that was given an extension and 2 that have declined. So that is by way of the agreements that are in hand. A note on other things as to the overall staffing. And there were a few elements. These things took a bit longer, and I would just throw out there as things in the future to consider. It took some time to evaluate how things have been done as it relates to the type of agreements to which we have signed. We have historically over the years signed people up. And I think there's a number of things that we should consider down in the future as respect to the type of agreements. We have a mix of, you have the full-time faculty teaching positions, which is pretty much across 10-month agreements on a full-time basis. You have a lot of the hourly, and you have full-time, what's considered full-time hourly positions. These things were always a little bit curious to me. As I kind of viewed them, it looked like on the employee side of things, they get a bit shortchanged on some elements of being this full-time hourly status. And I was taking a lot of time to try to see if we can kind of improve those things. Turns out that this is going to need a lot more legal vetting, and really, I know we wanted to, at least from the teaching faculty standpoint, keep things in the kind of cadence of how teaching hiring cycles work within the general community. But yeah, so there are some outstanding agreements. Also to note, so the administrative team, Dr. Wozniak, Ms. Joy, Ms. Gajewski, so we had discussions prior to this, but they have been extended formal agreements to review with time to evaluate. And there are, I think someone noted the finance director in particular. When I had spoken to her, she took a job that was much closer to her, and I am communicating what was communicated to me. She had taken a position that was much closer to where she lived. She was commuting quite a distance. In terms of that position, because it is critical to the overall success of the school. One of the things I believe in this role is evaluating how we can be most efficient and effective with the capital to which we are stewards of. And one of the things I noted in the area of finance, so all told across the years, and let's just take last year in particular, we spent a pretty significant amount of budget on the area of finance. In total, in excess of $250,000 a year. A substantial portion of that, which has always been outsourced to CISA, which is fine. CISA is there to support charter schools, and that continues to be the case, and it's a great resource to be able to leverage. Now, to put something in comparison, because I was kind of looking into this, because we want to, again, we had to focus on making sure that we extended teacher agreements, because teachers are at the heart of the school, as I think no one has any debates. And I don't think anyone has ever had any debates over wanting to do the best for teachers as far as compensation is concerned. I know last board meeting we spoke about wanting to really put our best foot forward, do the best that we can. I think, Ellen, you had mentioned the idea of rebasing and kind of where we stand. And I believe that we made a decent effort. There's always a lot more improvement to be had. And in order to be able to do those things, I think it's important to evaluate the overall composition of what all else we are doing. In the area of finance, to put something in perspective, because I was looking into this, The CFO of Kettle Moraine, who's regarded widely as the best in the business, has a total compensation package of about $185,000 in salary, additional $50,000 in benefits or so, so for a total spend of about $230,000. We spend in excess of that in finance, put in my opinion, not anywhere near the degree of horsepower and productivity, which that is what it is. It's not necessarily criticism, it is about where it is. And I've spent time evaluating where things need to be for the spend that we have. In particular, with that finance director role, currently what we have is the CISA resource, which is available to us, happens to be the one that has worked with us extensively, was the one that was actually doing the training for our previous finance director in the transitional time. And so she has been able to, CISA has been able to allocate her time to us, and there has been significant productivity. Just to be clear, I full intention that we should have a finance director in-house. But for right now, we get a considerable amount of productivity from what we have, and we're cleaning up some things, and we will, and hopefully be able to get a very strong resource there, ultimately for the long term. And also related to other roles that are within the school. Again, a number of those are still in evaluation because I'm trying to assess what, again, what's the most efficient use of the budgets, the budget that we do allocate. A lot of things have been in consideration, in no small part thinking about how to best set up the new head principal for success and make sure he has the most effective support infrastructure around him. But I do realize like there's practical realities and people do need to be noticed or discussed, and that will happen soon. But that is that's been a lot of thinking behind what all has been going on there. So, and again, I kept this thing limited just in anticipation of a lot of extensive discussion on other things. So,
Question,
yeah.
so just to let it come around soon, like the people whose contracts have not been offered yet because they're appropriately being reviewed, soon is how soon?
To be honest, I'm not sure. I would put it in a couple of weeks. I would say in a couple of weeks.
Weeks, not months?
Correct.
Okay. Good enough.
Thank you. I'm curious of the teaching staff, like what is the percentage of teachers versus?
Teaching staff has been extended. That's done.
100%.
The teachers, yeah.
All the teachers.
All the teachers. So this is what you see here is the fact.
Thank you.
Your slide 3 or your page 3.
Yeah. So that's that.
I have a question. When you talk about rebasing, I don't know finance, but like a new baseline for something.
That's what the something I think the word. Yeah, the word there's always been discussion about where we stand versus other districts.
So was that done? Was there like a third-party analysis done, or how was that done?
I only wish that we could have a extensive review and a multiple tiered and incentive-based compensation structure and a lot of things which, practically speaking, and I spent a lot of time thinking about that, and the practical reality is that takes a lot of time to develop.
Got it.
We can do that.
So how did it get
So
done?
we did it on the basis of the like how it has more in line with what has been done. We went through the approval of the preliminary budget last board meeting for a number, and then did raises kind of in the same vein as things have been done, but in a I feel comfortable saying in a more meaningful number.
So the board did that work at the last meeting?
We went through the approval of the overall allocation.
So who did the work? Where did the work come from?
I put those together and
Got
presented the
it. Got it. I missed that thread. Okay.
So having looked at the numbers, how does our compensation compare to other districts?
Broadly lower, and we're a little bit better now.
Good.
But lots of work to be done. Thank you.
Okay, anything else? All right, next item, handbook policy, John.
Yeah, this is something that occurred to me, so the process of how we did teacher agreements for next year and compensation. I actually I did them in conversations, individual one-on-one. I think across education, it seems like there's this, the way things are done, they get mailed their agreement and people evaluate. In a lot of other industries, I'm sure you are all used to, we always have compensation discussions when it comes to compensation, employment, opportunities, so on and so forth. There are ways for employees, staff, and such to kind of voice any concerns, desires, goals, and I attempted to do that to a degree here, working within the time constraints that we had. One of the elements that had come up so we had discussions even prior to the extension of the actual agreements and even the conversation about the actual numbers and salaries. And one of the things that had come up time and time again was about sick days and PTO and the ability to carry them over, which I think all of us are very familiar with how that happens in other industries. And it was not something that was the case here. It is something that is often the case in other school districts as well. And it, from discussions across the board, again, from teachers, from staff, from administration and such, there is a dynamic that often does happen when you don't allow any rollovers of sick days. You come to a point in the year and then you get the use it or lose it mentality, and it can actually present challenges. So one of the things that I had mentioned is that I fully intended to propose, as I am now, that we allow for the rollover of sick days. Currently, the policy for teachers is 5 sick days, 2 personal time off, and I would propose that we allow for the rollover of those sick days and up to a total of 15 sick days in total to be carried. The significance of that is that once we cross 15, you get to the area in which if any individual particularly needs it, you can start qualifying for, I think, it's a longer-term disability or such. Again, I'm not the HR expert, but yeah, so now, this is a matter of policy. It couldn't have been done as an individual compensation matter. So I'm putting it up to, it might be an issue, it's discussion at this point, but ideally you could approve it, but it's a matter of something that has to be changed in the handbook. So
it's a zero cost impact to the school other than cash flow differences.
Sure. I mean, there are, practically speaking, there's always, if someone's going to be out, you have to, they potentially have to find substitutes or find coverage. But this is something where everyone has the sick days for a given year.
If somebody has sick days at the end of the year and use them, you need to do the same thing anyway.
Yeah.
Sorry, what was your count of substitute teachers? I missed it.
That it would save on substitute teaching because
if
it's use it or lose it and they take an entire week off, then we have to incur the cost of having the substitute, where if they get to roll over, they can save it. They don't have to lose, they're not losing it. So then we're not having that extra expenditure, so just trying to answer his question.
But do people, what's the practice of using actual sick days? If you're not using sick days, you just lose them, which that does happen. You're not paying anything on those days. But if you're carrying over sick days and then you terminate employment, you have to pay on those additional days.
Not typically.
Yeah, what is the policy when someone leaves voluntarily if there's only 6 days?
That actually came up for discussion in a recent case here. And the conclusion was that it is not exactly clear how we currently have it stated in our policy, in our handbook. But as a kind of a practical matter, to call it, it's been the practice of prorating on a given year. So we don't allow the carryover. So then it's 5 days. So if someone were to leave, then we prorate them. That's how we've been doing it.
Okay.
Now, as far as we can separately talk about, so if we're allowing for the rollover, we can separately talk about how you want to deal with if someone were to depart or leave, and how you want that paid out or not.
How much paid vacation time do teachers staff get?
2 days. This is PTO.
I mean, if we're going to have this conversation, I'd like to open it up to a broader conversation around just getting rid of vacation and sick time and just saying if you need to go do something, go do it. Just trust staff and teachers to be responsible adults who care about teaching, and if they're not doing a good job, that brings up a different issue. But I don't think we necessarily, as a policy, need to create limitations on people. If they need something, they need something, and if they don't, they're expected to work.
Well,
I'd
I
like
would
to
say
like
that-
broaden it from just like, let's change this to like, if we're gonna adjust the policy, let's discuss at some point the
I think we
broader
need
idea.
to have clarity on what happens with 6 days upon exit from the school before we change policy on rollover. And I think this is a great topic for the new principal to handle on that board.
For sure.
So I would suggest that we don't do it.
I'm fine with that too.
Could be at the next board meeting.
Yeah.
You said, so there's no like urgency to this other than.
I would think by the end of the year would be good, so that it applies for
The end
next
of
year.
the school
Yeah,
year.
but it's fine to, yeah, I think, and to that point, I think that's a great thing to consider. I mean, we see that a lot professionally in other industry. I think I will, if we defer this, for next meeting, I will get thoughts from teachers, administration and such.
Well, if we can get the new head principal, if everybody,
Yeah,
if
if
this
he's
goes
in,
well,
great.
then let's make sure he's briefed on that and brought to speed.
I think the thought is great, John. I just think anyway, since our teachers are working hard and making less, I think anything we can do to.
Yeah,
make
so
the
there
right
you go.
progress.
So we can do better than that, great. So,
All right, awesome. So we will defer that till, or for the head principal, hopefully next month, we can talk about that. So the next three items relate to items that were in Dr. O'Toole's letter. And I just want to say, before we start this, I know whatever happens today, some people are going to be happy, some people aren't. Maybe I won't even be here. But I just would encourage everybody to take a deep breath and meet the head principal before you make judgment, because I guarantee you, whether it's me or that everybody on this board wants this school to succeed and is going to do everything to make sure that happens and make sure the values that the school is built on do not change. So anyway, just wanted to say that before we get into this. So our first item is the executive director and future role of John Wu. And, as I said in my comments earlier, John has said all along that once the head principal is, identified, signed, and ready to start, that he would be open to having a discussion about revising his role. So I just want to, we've had this discussion so many times and different people are in it, so since I was close to it, I just want to make sure everybody's sort of up to speed on it. So John signed a one-year contract. John's an at-will employee, meaning we could terminate him for any reason. However, if he's terminated for cause, we wouldn't have to pay him. He's not. So if we remove John Wu now, we would be removing him without cause, and we would need to pay him for 8 months roughly, so about $50,000. So what Dr. O'Toole said was, I want an announcement tomorrow that John Wu's role is going to be revised. So if we revise John Wu's role right now, it would cost the school and thus the taxpayers $50,000, because we cannot do that unilaterally without breaching this contract. If, as we have talked about for months, wait for 2 weeks till our new head principal is in place, see what is needed, have a discussion about what John can do, how he can help, how that might be a fit together. If we wait 2 weeks and John voluntarily amends his contract, it costs the school nothing. So this is another example where I'm telling you, as fiduciaries of taxpayer money, if we do what she said strictly to that letter, we are wasting $50,000 of taxpayer money and money for the school, when we could potentially completely avoid it in 2 weeks. So that is the discussion, and that's probably the clearest when we talk about things like de facto control and stuff like that. That gets a little fuzzy and nebulous. I mean, this one's plain as day clear. Everybody knows what $50,000 is and 2 weeks is. and, the contract situation. So to me, that's a clear-cut one, and one where, like we talked about, if Dr. O'Toole would say, well, okay, fine, let's just, modify the expectation here. That's something we could easily work out. She could have what I think she's looking for and do it in a way that allows us to maintain our fiduciary obligations and allows the school to save $50,000. So I don't know who wants to start this discussion, but I just wanted to give that backdrop first.
I have a little bit different understanding of what that ask is, Randy. And so I don't want to start a discussion maybe without a motion. And then we can discuss the merits of it and address how we want to proceed there.
Maybe, but question, since we have three things that Hillsdale outlined, does it make, see, I don't see that on the agenda, so does it make sense for the board to discuss all of that, just have a discussion on that, and then laser in on different things? Like, how are we parsing out?
I was just gonna do them separately, John Wu, then board member composition, and then future board member.
And then what about your position?
That would be board member composition.
Under board member composition.
So,
okay.
like, if you would move to remove me, that's where it would fall.
So we're gonna discuss each thing individually.
That was what I was
Okay.
thinking.
Okay.
Yeah. So Scott will make a motion if you'd like.
So I would like to make a motion that we, effective on the date of the hire of the new head of school, that we move John Wu to a new position focused on development and fundraising in the One Campus project. And that any administrative or curriculum-based activities cease until such time as such person begins their current role.
Could you say that again?
I'll try.
Sorry.
I'd like to make a motion that effective on the date that the new head of school starts, that we move John Wu out of his role as executive director into a new role focused on development or fundraising.
Okay.
And the One Campus project. And that until such time as that role begins, that John would cease any administrative duties and curriculum-based activities.
Until or after?
That would start now, but the title of executive director necessarily wouldn't go away.
So as of now, no involvement in the operation of the school, and on that date, a fundraising.
Yeah.
So your motion is to discuss that?
Yes. Do I have a second?
Second. Sorry, didn't mean to leave you hanging.
And I can open the discussion. I think, there's been a lot that's been said, and I don't have a lot to add to the commentary about where things are. Going through this process, we've clearly articulated that we intend to remain a Hillsdale member school. That's certainly the goal of the board. That's my belief as a board member. It makes up the discussions I've had with other board members. The most recent letter from Hillsdale on April 9th certainly has made our job a lot tougher to make these decisions. It hasn't made our lives any easier because, I think regardless of what we decide in this meeting today, there's certainly going to be people who are upset with the decision. There'll be some people that'll be happy with some of the decisions that are made, but it's been very challenging. As a board member, it's been very frustrating. But I don't think that our frustration is limited to Hillsdale. Our frustration, can extend to our community at large, and you know, as board members, I think we have to look in the mirror a little bit, that we should be frustrated with maybe some of the decisions that we've made that have resulted in us being in this place. So these decisions are certainly not made lightly. And I think, you know, having worked with each of you now for some period of time, I know that you don't make these decisions lightly or flippantly. And so I appreciate each of you, and the way that you decide each of these issues.
Skylar, I agree with everything you said and how you said it. It's been a very challenging time to navigate the information that we're getting, and I think it's important to remember that we probably see the most of both sides, but a lot of people see things through a particular lens, and what we're trying to do is discern the information that we're receiving from all stakeholders and weigh it against multiple factors, including our duties here as the board, and most importantly, what's best for the children here and for the teachers. So I also think that, in the spirit of the letter we received, to try to adhere to its guidance as close as possible in effort to maintain our Hillsdale candidate and member school. It's necessary to modify the executive director duties. I also think it will give the new head principal, who, as you guys have mentioned, I haven't had the opportunity to spend some time with, and am really excited about and have a lot of confidence and hope for him at this school. A full, clean slate and authority to move forward. And after he is, should he come here, has the ability to discern whether or not there needs to be further modifications, greater or lesser, to the executive director's position. That's his prerogative. But and then the executive director would, though at the time, and I think it's clear, would report to the new head principal. So that's where I'm at.
I have a lot to say, so I guess I'll go next. Thank you. What I'm going to say is going to be relevant to all of it, because there's some context, but then I'll speak specifically to this piece. So I just want to make sure that I get on the record what I've heard. I understand there are people who are here because of Hillsdale. I also understand there's a lot of people who are experiencing worry over concern for the loss of a classical education model and curriculum. So I want to go on record with my perspective that first of all, that the board is what sets the policy of LCCA and not Hillsdale. That the board is committed to a classical education model and the continuation of what LCCA has become and is, regardless of Hillsdale. And I expect that you would and should and can hold us, the board, to that, as those who are developing policy. I invite Hillsdale to continue supporting us, and I would encourage the board to be patient with their response. My perspective is that the mission of this school is what we all know it to be. The teachers and staff are to train the hearts and minds of our young people through classical education, instruction, moral character, civil virtue, and that it's the board's responsibility to serve the LCCA students, parents, and teachers and staff by creating policies that empower them to accomplish their mission, and that we have a responsibility to the public trust to ensure public funding is used accordingly. My perspective to accomplish this is an amazing head principal. That's imminent. Excellent teachers and staff, check that box. We've got that, that's done. Appropriate curriculum, in my view, that's Hillsdale curriculum. I think everybody agrees that Hillsdale curriculum is excellent, and that they set the standard, and it would be something that we should continue using. And then the last one is a supportive community, and that one, from my perspective, is imperative. Like, without that, this becomes very difficult. So here's what I think our next steps should be overall, and then I'll focus in on the John. Next week, I'd like to see us schedule a meet and greet with our head principal for all the parties that need to have done it. I know that's already something that's being discussed and in the works. Monday, May 27th, I would like to see us schedule a board meeting to vote on the hiring of the head principal.
April.
Oh, I'm sorry, April. Thank you. Monday, April 27th. I would like to see us strike that, back it up. April 27th, like very, very soon. I would like to see us commit to having a board meeting to vote on the hiring of the head principal. Now, I realize that for us to commit to that, we need to make sure that our candidate is available and it's appropriate timing and whatnot. But I would like to see us commit to something very, very fast turnaround, right? Get feedback from the community. Let's hold a meeting right away, April 27th, and get our head principal candidate onboarded and involved in this conversation. I obviously want to make sure we have time for feedback. I'd like to devote, I'm going to skip over the John Woo comment and come to that last. I'd like to devote our May board meeting then, exclusively beyond, in addition to public comments that people may want to make at that time, to the review of existing policies and a discussion of new policies that will help guide our head principal in their decisions around issues like grading, teacher compensation and development, and community morale, which are going to be some of his primary responsibilities. I think that's in keeping with the board's governance model around policy, and it would be a great kind of opportunity for us to say, okay, head principal's in place, reset, we're going back to policy conversation, and we're just going to focus on policy. So, John Woo. Since the onboarding of our new head principal is imminent, and because I appreciate all that John Woo has done in stepping up to support the LCCA community during what became a very difficult season, I think we owe John Woo, and I would like to suggest that we offer John Woo the professional courtesy of simply asking him to immediately pause all action except fundraising and the making ready of onboarding our new head principal. I would like to leave any decisions around John Woo's employment up to the head principal. And I think that is also in keeping with Hillsdale's guidance around having a head principal who makes all of these kinds of decisions around staffing what's needed. John Woo brings lots of experience, lots of knowledge, lots of excellence. I don't want to lose John Woo from this team. And I think that when our head principal gets here and gets an opportunity to really dialogue with John Woo and I get offered, they're going to have to work out what that looks like and whether that extends beyond his existing contract or not. But I think we can trust the new head principal, and I would like to leave it up to him and John to figure that out. That's where I stand on this.
Yeah, thanks, Randy. First thing, having to do with new principal, I want to caution the board in how this is being characterized right now. First of all, a clarification. I was on the call with Matthew getting feedback. I did not interview this gentleman, but I was on the call and kind of test and affirm that they said that this candidate definitely passed their muster, that they think that he could be a good fit for the school and all of that. Hillsdale did not say hire this man. So I'm hearing we're going to have a new principal in 2 weeks. I don't know that. And I don't think we should put pressure on the board, our parent community, or our faculty and staff to say in 2 weeks we have to have him in place. So we have had a hiring committee. I totally defer to them. I trust their judgment and all of that. But I think I don't want to go so far. I don't want to go too far here and say it's been mischaracterized. But this kind of, well, we're going to have a new principal in 2 weeks, not in my mind. Because I think as a board, we all need to be able to speak with this person before we start speaking in those terms. So I want to make that distinction. I want to take your lead and talk overall. and then, laser in on executive director. Hearing Hillsdale disparaged as much as it was tonight was striking to me. I was on most of these weekly calls, and I can tell you there was absolutely no coercion going on. In its simplest form, the way I see it is, Hillsdale's Hillsdale, it has a K-12 group, they have schools, they provide guidance, and schools can do what they want to do. So all this talk about we're being forced to do things, this board, this governing body could decide we don't need Hillsdale. And I know it's clear now that there are people who feel that way, that we don't need Hillsdale and all that, and hey, more power to you. As far as I'm concerned, this is a Hillsdale school, and nothing short of member status is acceptable to me. That's just to me. They've optimized education. So that's my take on that. Okay, I have a couple notes here. So yeah, coercion. It's almost like even the letter that's being cited. There are things in there to that. We have no power over the school. It's all in there. So one thing missing from some of this dialogue is up until this episode. So let's go the past 5-6 months. There's been no communication from Hillsdale, anything like this. So this is a very recent phenomenon. And what's been missing from the overview and the comments is, in our meetings, we're hearing that Hillsdale's hearing from our faculty and staff that there are real problems, that people are really unhappy. So we could say to Hillsdale, ignore them, and we're going to do what we're going to do, I guess. I would never do that. So my kind of devil's advocate is, what would you have Hillsdale do? Just ignore the school? So I feel like when the board voted for the executive director, I just want to Wayback Machine this. It did so quickly and under pressure. A lot like how this new principal discussion has gone tonight. 2 weeks, we're going to have a new principal, 2 weeks, okay. I'm not saying I'm not going to vote for this gentleman. I haven't met him, I haven't talked to him. What I'm saying is, I think you mentioned, let's learn from the past. Let's not put a whole lot of pressure on this. We had an executive director come in, and the idea was we had a head principal that everybody agreed was a great administrator, ran the school great, everybody around the table said this. We told Hillsdale, we got somebody coming in, we're not going to touch academics, etc. Well, 2 things happened. One, that person resigned. So now we've had people here running the school that never run a school before. And this isn't disparagement. I'm just saying that's our reality. So it's not surprising to me that there have been hiccups. Good intentions, all of that, hiccups. So this isn't, I'm not a math guy, this isn't complicated calculus. So we made a decision here, and for some people it's worked great. George is right. We've heard from parents who think this is exactly what we need to do. We don't necessarily need Hillsdale. Let's just keep doing this, etc. But we also heard from people who are, I don't want to say materially damaged, but just really struggling. And this board does not have the faculty and staff. We don't have them. They've lost faith. They've lost trust. So big picture, one, Hillsdale has been measured in its guidance to us. It has been very deferential to us, has asked for things to happen, has been very patient. There's been some back and forth. There's been some miscues and all that human stuff. But I have felt this entire time that Hillsdale has been very supportive of this school and pulling for it. And we've been treated with total respect by the organization. That's my perspective. Now, with respect to this position, I like Skylar's idea. I think John, and you're you, right? This is just outsider. I think one campus has been languishing, and I think we really need it. And we've been so distracted by this, we've taken our eye off the ball, and I including me. And I think him in fundraising, getting some money rolling into here and getting that back on track, I really, really like that idea. I think your interpersonal skills, all of that, your understanding of finance and all that, I think you'd be perfectly suited for that. So I agree. As of tonight, cessation of any school operations, any oversight, any responsibility for the school. I would vote. I'm aligned with Skylar on that. The other thing is, I would recommend that the board approach Dr. Wozniak to see if he would be open to stepping in as interim head of school. It might be for 2 weeks, but it might be for 6 months. Like, we don't know. And not characterize this as, okay, Hillsdale said go, and we're going to go, and in 2 weeks we're going to have, I don't like that. And it might, lightning strikes, right? It might. But I just think we have to think broader than that and more strategic than that. So that's where I'm at.
So Tom, you said, we're rushing into things, we rushed into